Hi everyone, welcome to the continuation of Game 5 between Mason and Lasker. As you remember last time, Black made this mistake allowing the white knight to gain control of the d5 square. But Black has gotten some counterplay, got his knight to the e5 square, and things are looking a little better. In the game, White played bishop takes knight, however. My question to you, what should Black play here? Pause your video and try to figure it out. Okay. So, and by the way, in the last position here, Black should have played bishop takes. And then, the reason he didn't probably was because of rook to g8. However, incredibly, this position seems to be okay. That's what Houdini's saying, at least. Somehow my notes said that this should happen. But I can understand how this could be a little annoying. But our pieces are very good here, so even though Houdini says white is just better, I think from a practical standpoint, it's not so easy. Like, queen e1 is suggested, rook g7 with the idea of rook g2. Why exactly is this so much better for white? I'm not sure. Because we're going to get the rook to g2. I'm wanting Houdini to tell me. As you notice, see that the evaluation is going down and down. But okay, that didn't happen, but it was a possibility for Black. In the game, bishop takes knight occurred. The best move for Black is not what Lasker played. If rook f1, rook takes, queen takes, king c2, this is very tempting because queen c1, king to b3, and the king is running around, queen to d1, king to a3. However, we have a problem. This rook is still being attacked. And what Lasker may have calculated was pawn takes bishop, queen takes rook with an okay position for Black. However, what did he miss? When in a situation like this where you're about to take two pieces, there's a thing called desperado. So White wants to get something for this rook before he takes the rook on h7, and after rook takes g5, White is simply winning. Pawn takes, queen takes. White's up a piece. So in fact, rook f1 is a horrendous blunder, which is what Lasker played. Coming off a loss the last game, he blunders again. He should have just played pawn takes bishop, and Black's position is actually, despite being a pawn, is remarkably okay. I'm sorry, he can't go queen takes because this wins now. Because now we actually do win the rook. So he simply needs to take the bishop back, and the position is fine. White's slightly better, as you can see, 0.13 according to Houdini, but nothing special. But after rook f1, he ended up having to just move this. And after knight c3, bishop h8, White's just up a piece for nothing. And I'll show the rest of the game, but you can imagine what happens here. White doesn't take the draw. Queen to g4, bishop takes. I mean, he's just up a bishop for nothing. Not super interesting. Okay, now b5. I mean, he's getting some ideas of b4, but okay. White still is just up a bishop. Bishop to e1 was played. And the idea is if b4, probably just king a4. So he goes queen to d1, and admittedly, he's getting some semblance of, I guess you could say, an attack at this point. White goes pawn takes pawn, Black goes pawn takes, and now b4. And unfortunately, Black still doesn't quite have anything. After queen check, rook to b2, king to b6, pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn, queen e6, queen to e2, and if b4, just king to b3 defends everything. Rook c7, bishop to f2, and this move turns out to be a little bit risky because of check and checkmate. So I was tricking you guys. Actually, Lasker, despite being down a piece for nothing, ends up winning this game, which certainly cemented his legacy in Tarash's mind of being a lucky player. I mean, he was just down a piece. This was not a game where he should even think about drawing the game. And his opponent just blunders mate. In this position, white can just play any move, like bishop to d2, b4, king b3. I mean, the game's just over. But somehow he missed queen c3. Don't understand how exactly, but it did happen. And Lasker, he should have 2 out of 5. Instead, he has 3 out of 5. But crazy finish, right? You don't see that every day in modern day Grandmaster tournaments. But back then, the guys were a little less professional. Sometimes they made some really silly mistakes. So Lasker's off to a really shaky start in terms of his play, but he does have 3 out of 5, so he's right in the hunt. Thanks, guys, for watching. I hope you enjoyed this ending. It's one of the funniest ones I've seen. Bye-bye.